Hello, it's Chris from Cricut. Welcome to Cricut 101. We're so glad you're here. For those of you in the States, happy Thanksgiving, happy post-Thanksgiving. We hope you had a great holiday. And in case you haven't joined us before, Cricut 101 is our attempt to meet beginner level members who just may have bought a cutting machine, kind of where they're getting started on their personal learning journey. Just checking the sound here, it looks like it's good. But anyway, the way this works is I will give you kind of a brief intro, which is what I'm doing now, lay out the project that I'm going to talk about, which in this case is an iron-on t-shirt. And then we'll kind of wrap it up after a pre-recorded narrative of that project. And as we go, we're going to encourage you to join in on the live chat. We're going to have our buddy Karen on the back end answering as many questions as she can. And in case you want to come back to this content, we're going to archive this on demand on the official Cricut YouTube channel. So if you want to come back, that playlist is called Cricut 101. And like I said, this is an iron-on, a very simple beginner level iron-on that's a great choice for starting out with that particular material. But we're going to go through unboxings, we're going to go through infusible ink, vinyl, and paper projects, all carefully curated for beginner level kind of entry into the Cricut journey. So learn by doing. That will be my admonition just going through this series. When I was a beginner, I jumped in, got in Design Space. I made some mistakes. Each one of those mistakes was the best learning experience that I could have asked for. And I took a little bit out of each one of those and applied it to my next project. So I think with this kind of boost that we're giving you with 101, you're going to learn a few things from each of these pieces. Go back and check the official Cricut YouTube channel if you forgot something. And then you'll be making stuff in no time on your own with all the pieces of knowledge and skills that you've picked up. So again, we're going to start with our iron-on t-shirt here. Let me just want to kind of give you an idea of what this is. It's a ready-to-make project. We call them ready-to-make because there are instructions. There is a kind of beginner level instruction on this one that gives you every material that you need, as well as what step-by-step instruction you need to make your iron-on t-shirt. So let's just get going on this. As you can see, that's the t-shirt. And here's some of the materials that you need to start this project. You can see that shiny blue material is iron-on. I have a Cricut Maker. I have a Easy Press, which is our product that helps you heat press, and some scissors and a weeding tool. Here I am on the home screen of Design Space. I'm just going to pause that for a minute so that you can understand where I'm going. Design Space is our design software. This is where the kind of creation of your projects happens in the Cricut universe. So as you saw, I clicked into what's called the canvas. And this white gridded screen is the canvas where you're actually designing your project. So I'm going to go ahead and start the video again. And I'm going to go over to that left-hand side and click on Projects in the toolbar. And you can see a lot of projects have come up. I'm going to go to the top search bar on the right-hand side and put in Pun because I know the project I'm looking for. This is a ready-to-make project. You can see there's an ability level, how much time it's going to take, what materials you'll need, and then step-by-step instruction, including assembly. And at the bottom, you can see I can just make the project or I can customize it. So I'm going to click Customize, mostly because I want to resize this project a little bit. Okay, you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to just pause for a second there so I don't go too quickly. So in the bottom of the box on the screen, what I did is I clicked on the Bad Puns image, and these four icons showed up around the corners of my box here, and that's called the bounding box. And in the bottom right-hand corner is a sizing tool. So what I can do is slide that tool kind of diagonally, either up to the left or down to the right, and that will proportionately make the image, all of the words in that image, bigger or smaller. And you can see there's a grid on the background here. This corresponds to inches. So you can relate this to your cutting mat which we'll be showing in a little bit, which also has a grid and inches on it. And typically before you start a project, a lot of people just use a tape measure, measure across their t-shirt and see exactly how far they want to go across. And then you can kind of correlate using both the canvas here and the mat, how big your project is. So sizing is very easy, but it's something you want to do early in the process so that you don't end up with a design that doesn't fit on your shirt. We'll go ahead and get going here. I'm still not quite done sizing here. And now you can see I'm going up to the top in the left-hand corner to change the color. And I'm just going to see what the color looks like here. I happen to have some green iron-on, as you saw in the beginning. So this doesn't really do anything but show you what it's going to look like, because the way you actually change the color is by what you're putting on the cutting mat. I'm just going to pause that for a second. You can see I went up to the top right-hand corner, and you're just brought through Design Space with a series of green button prompts. So it's very easy to kind of go through the system by looking for that green button. And here, this is the prep screen. You can see exactly how the words on that t-shirt are going to look on your cutting mat. And you can see that there's a little red box around, which is you want to make sure that the image you've got is inside of that red box on the cutting mat. So we'll just go ahead and keep going here. And one thing you really want to do, make sure you do, is mirror. And I'm going to pause that again so you don't forget. You see on the left corner of your screen, there's a little button that says mirror. And when I hit that, you can see that the words on the screen kind of went kind of backwards, and that's so that they turn out on the t-shirt correctly. Because if you think about it, you're pressing onto a t-shirt backwards, and when you actually see the t-shirt after the heat press is done, it's going to look correct. But if you don't hit that mirror, you're going to have backward letters, and you're going to have to start over. So whenever you're doing an iron-on project or an infusible ink heat transfer, make sure you click that little mirror switch at the left-hand side of the screen. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit continue in the bottom right. And now I'm at material selection. So here I'm going to select everyday iron-on because that's the material I have. And now Design Space is telling me what tools I need in this case, Cricut Maker, to make my project. I've already got the blade in. And I'm just going to keep hitting the prompts here as I go, again, looking for those green button prompts. And we're going to switch out a little bit here to the mat and just show you kind of what I did to put the iron-on on the mat. So you can see I've got my t-shirt here. And as I mentioned before, it's a good idea to measure and again correlate to those inches on your mat and in Design Space. And here I've got the iron-on material. You can see I've got it cut out in a square. And a lot of people, when they do this, they want to save material, so they will cut out a piece of iron-on that's only just as big as the image they're going to want to use. So it's a good idea to think in terms of, you know, how much material you can save for the next project. And one of the things I love about Cricut members is they're thrifty and they think about, you know, what materials they're buying and how they can save those pieces. So you can see what I'm doing here is cutting my iron-on material in a place where I can use the remainder of that sheet on a second t-shirt or hat or another project. So again, just kind of using those grids on the mat, which is the sticky place where we're going to put this iron-on material, shiny side down, very important to do when you're doing iron-on. You can see I've lined it up there, and now I'm going to You just show you the shiny side down there. And I'm going to roll it and make sure that there's no air bubbles on the bottom. This is called a burnishing tool. This is something that is a good thing to have if you're doing heat press. But you can see I've got my piece on there. It's all lined up, and I'm getting ready for my cut here. And these mats, which come with your machine, are quite sticky, and one thing you want to do is make sure you put the cover back on the mat when you're done, so that it retains its stickiness. Now we're just switching back to the design space view just to show you what it looks like after you've put that mat into your machine. It's always going to give you this gauge that shows you how much cutting is taking place and how much you still have left. So kind of fun to watch that as you're going. We're almost done. We're at 100%. Now I've unloaded the material and I'm looking up the Cricut Heat Transfer Guide on Google. This is kind of your one-stop shop for instruction. You can see I've picked the Cricut Easy Press. I've clicked my heat transfer material, which in this case is Everyday Iron-On, and then a 100% cotton t-shirt, as well as a Cricut Easy Press mat. And you can see here, it's giving you instruction, very detailed instruction on how long you're going to heat, what supplies you need, how you're going to layer your project, and if you need any kind of liners in there or anything like that. So the Cricut Heat Transfer Guide is a great source of instruction. And if you're starting a project, you might want to just go in there and kind of play with it and make sure that you understand the materials you need and make sure you have an idea of the sequence, because that's just a really great place for instruction for anything heat transfer related, whether it's infusible ink or iron-on. And you can see right here, I was just setting my Easy Press for the pre-press, it's called. And typically, you're going to do a little pre-press before you actually do the main press on a project. And that's all laid out, again, in the Heat Transfer Guide. You can see I've got my mat. This is a Cricut Easy Press mat that gives you a nice, solid press, even press. And I'm just putting out my cotton t-shirt here and getting it ready to go. And really the thing about easy presses, and you can see I'm lint rolling here. This is part of the process detailed in the Cricut Heat Transfer Guide. But the thing about easy presses that you don't get with an iron is you get even heating across the entire plate, which is going to lead to a much better result than a small iron that you have to move around. Again, doing a little measuring here, just kind of making sure I'm envisioning where my lettering is going to go. And typically I come down about 3 fingers from the neck of the t-shirt, just so that it's centered on the chest. And you can see some people just like to kind of wing it. Some people like to measure with a tape. It really depends on the size of the image for me and in what I'm making. But you can see I'm kind of eyeing it here, seeing what it's going to look like. And now I'm going to get going with my pre-press here in a second. And again, all of this is laid out in the Cricut Heat Transfer Guide. It's also in the instruction in Design Space, but the Cricut Heat Transfer Guide is really where you want to go for the timing of the pre-press. That was just a very quick pre-press that I did. And now I've got a piece of butcher paper down, and I'm going to set my Easy Press by hitting that clock button and then the plus sign at the top to what it says on the Cricut Heat Transfer Guide. So it's asking for a 30-second press. This is my main press. I've got my design where I want it. And I'm going to go ahead and put that Easy Press down and then hit the blinking button to make it go. Okay, here comes my press. You can see I hit the Cricut button, And you can see I'm not pushing it here, I'm just holding it in place. You don't want to move it back and forth like an iron. You want to have it in place, but you don't need to put a bunch of weight on it. I'm just kind of holding it in place so that it doesn't move. You can see it's counting down. When it's done, I'm going to go ahead and put that back. And the Cricut Heat Transfer Guide is calling for a press on the back as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. This will make sure that you get a good press on your iron-on. You go front and back. Again, just kind of repeating the process, not moving the easy press around. And now we'll turn it over. And this is the fun part, the reveal. So one thing you want to do with iron-on is you want to peel it cool. You want to wait until it cools off to peel. You're going to get a better result there. You can see I'm checking the temperature with my hand. I really like the color on this. And one of the things about iron-on, a lot of people think this is not a beginner level project. It actually is. When you get into one of these ready-to-make projects and you do a couple of them, you start to see that the instructions right there. You can certainly make mistakes, which you'll learn from, but it really is a great beginner level project because you get such an incredible result. This is really a t-shirt that you could buy in a store. And that's what I love about doing iron-ons and infusible ink is the professional quality of the press. And you don't have to be an expert. You can be a beginner to do this. Okay, being nice and patient here, waiting for my iron-on to cool off a little bit. And it's hard to see, but there's the kind of backer of the iron-on, the clear backer, is what I'm going to be peeling off of the actual heat transfer material. It's hard to see against the white of the t-shirt, but here you'll start to see as I peel off. There it comes. Okay, you just have a steady 45-degree angle and you take that off. And there is my bad puns. That's how I roll t-shirt. All right, I'm back live. And let me just check the chat and see if anybody's watching. Cool. There are some folks here. They're giving us tips. Hello, Joni. Hello, Jacqueline. Hello, Kathy. Hello, Melissa. Hello, Liliana. Awesome. Really cool. So glad you're joining us. So again, we are going to archive this episode on the official Cricut YouTube channel. Look for Cricut 101 playlist. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be doing 3 of these roughly per week through January 8th. If you want to see the schedule, check out the Cricut blog. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you the next time on Cricut 101.